Hey everyone, welcome to week 2 of the Transformation Challenge. I hope week 1 went off strong and you were able to take the ideas that Mike and Chris provided about goal setting to set you up for success for week 2. Today, Kolbie and I are going to take it a step further and we're going to talk about all things macronutrients. My name is Tara. If we haven't met, I'm the head coach of the Albany studio as well as the regional fitness manager. You can primarily see me coaching at Albany, and if you've taken a chance of our Orange Theory live classes, I pretty much coach those Monday through Friday. Now, the reason for today's seminar is we know at this point, at least everyone has heard macronutrients one time. However, you might not have dug deep enough in the understanding of macronutrients, so today is going to be a very basic overview of what you need to know to set yourself up for the remainder of this challenge. At the end of this seminar, Kolbie will be discussing 2 ways that you can track what you're eating depending on your preference. Now, we know based from experience that tracking what you're eating is a strong way to see the goals and get them. If you didn't know, myself, Kolbie, Mike Dunn, and Chris are certified precision nutrition coaches. So we have the information that we can help get you guys to where you want to be. So, macronutrients. We have 3: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So we're going to break down each category for you guys, provide some information that's useful, and then from there, if you have questions, you can always drop them in the group and we will answer them for you. So my favorite one to talk about is carbohydrates. The reason is carbohydrates tend to get a bad rap. We think of pasta. We think of rice, we think of pizza, bread. And if you're sitting listening, if you've ever gone on a diet in the past, that was probably the first type of food that you eliminated. Now, I'm not saying carbohydrates, they're all equal because they're not, but we can have carbohydrates in moderation, and we should. Carbohydrates are made up of fibers, starches, sugars. And we need a moderate amount to be able to have a balanced and healthy diet. So the first thing to take away from this is carbs are not bad. Repeat that to yourself a few times and convince yourself that that's the case. Carbs are not bad because they're our main energy source. They allow us to carry out proper bodily functions. They provide us with energy. When you're looking to get into an Orange Theory class, carbohydrates should be part of your pre-workout meal. That's for a reason. We want to make sure our body has enough energy to do the work that you want it to do in 45 to 60 minutes. If we don't take enough carbohydrates in, our body starts to use protein as an energy source. If you looked at your in-body scan and you wanted to grow muscle mass and increase that number, you do not want your body to use the protein. So your goal is to find ways to incorporate carbohydrates into your diet that support your goals. So if we're going to talk about good versus bad, let's talk about complex versus simple carbs. So simple carbs, pretty much what the name says. They're simple, typically comprised of 1 to 2 grams of sugar. And if we think of real life foods that we eat, we tend to find those in things like soda and syrups. So, hate to burst your bubble if you're a coffee drinker. If you're somebody that frequents Starbucks and you get your latte with a syrup flavor, that's a carbohydrate. And we know, and I know from experience, we don't always tend to log in or track what we're drinking. And those beverages will add up over time. Same thing with alcohol. That is processing as a carbohydrate. So make sure that if you're choosing those options, you are taking that into consideration when you either track or are just being mindful of what you're consuming. Another reason why simple carbohydrates are not the best is because they're simple. They quickly digest. So imagine you eat something or drink something and you're full, but then within 30 minutes, you're hungry again. That's because your body digested whatever food or drink that was and now your blood sugar has spiked, and it's signaling that you're hungry, when in fact you might not be. So a way to combat this is to gravitate towards complex carbs. On the opposite, complex carbs are made of 3 or more sugars, and these are the carbs we want. They're slower digesting. So when we eat something like beans, it takes longer for your body to digest that food, so it keeps you fuller for longer. And we know if you're fuller for longer for an extended period of time, you will eat less in the long run. Complex carbs do not have to be boring. Beans, peas, lentils, potatoes, corn. You can even have whole grain pasta or cereal, and rice is also an option. So when you're thinking of choosing what to eat in terms of carbohydrates, think about foods that are whole and nutritious versus processed. There are such things as good carbs and bad carbs. It is your job to differentiate between the two. Everything is okay in moderation, but if you're looking to see your goals that you set at the start of the challenge at the end of the 8 weeks, this is something that you might need to add into your diet, or you already eat carbs, but you'll have to change up what type of carbs you are consuming. Kolbie is going to be talking about proteins and fats, and then 2 ways now that you can track if that's the way you choose to go with your nutrition.
Tara, thanks for all that great information on carbohydrates, because as we know, it does get a bad rep. So I'm glad you could clear up a lot of things, and hopefully people aren't taking them out of their diet because they realize that they are essential and they are needed in the body. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Coach Kolbie. I'm the head coach over at Orange Theory Fitness, Niskayuna. If you haven't gotten your chance to burn with me, would love to have you guys. Love meeting new people. Love seeing new faces. I'm here to talk about proteins, fats, and then 2 ways that you guys can actually track your food, because as we know, if we want to make that transformation, we have to know what we're putting in our body to be in that caloric deficit, and the only way we can do that is by tracking. So let's get into proteins and what they are. They are the macromolecules that are consistent of 1 or more long chains of amino acid residues. They are the macronutrients that are absolutely essential in muscle building and strength. There's no question about it. We need protein if we want to build muscle. You know, every time someone says, I'm looking to gain muscle, everyone's like, make sure you're drinking your protein shakes, make sure you're eating your protein, and that's 100% because it's true. We need protein if we want to increase our muscle mass and, if we want to increase our strength. I'm also going to talk about some benefits of protein, because we got a nice little list. And then I'll talk about, recommendations for protein, and then where we can find proteins as well. So let's get into that list of benefits. It's actually going to help you maintain your bone density as we age. So as we get older, we know our bones get more brittle. They can break easier, and we can prevent that with an adequate amount of protein. So that's always a good thing. It actually has a high thermic effect, which means that it takes the body a little bit longer to digest. So the body's got to work a little bit harder to digest proteins, actually causing you to burn, more calories. So you can burn an extra 80 to 100 calories just by having an adequate protein intake, which is awesome. Never anything wrong with burning a few extra calories. It helps lower your blood pressure and your LDL cholesterol levels, which, if you didn't know, LDL cholesterol levels are, is our bad cholesterol. So that's the one we do want to lower. It's going to speed up your recovery from anything from an injury to just day-to-day life. After working out, obviously we know, like, our body gets tired, we got to refuel it, but it can speed up that recovery process. Also, people who are coming back from injuries have come back better and a little bit quicker due to having an adequate protein intake. So, a lot of good things with that protein. Obviously, it's going to help fuel your muscle mass and your metabolism, essentially helping you, burn fat a little bit quicker. It's going to keep you full longer, essentially making you eat less. So it actually reduces your level of your hunger hormones, so you don't feel hungry later on during the day, you're fuller for a longer period of time. So if you feel full, obviously we're not just going to force food down our throat. So we're eating less. Those late night snacks that we want to grab, it'll actually prevent us from, wanting to grab those because we have no desire to eat at that point. It is the most filling macronutrient that there is. Each gram of protein, so 1 gram of protein equals 4 total calories. So how much protein do we want to intake in a day? We're looking for 0.8 grams to 1.5 grams per 1 pound of body weight. If that's too much calculation, a great starter or a great place to start is just 1 gram per pound. So if you weigh 120 pounds, 120 grams of protein in your diet. Out of your total calories, we should have 120 grams. Not everyone's going to get 1.5, and that's totally okay, but we should be looking at a minimum of 0.8. When you think of 120, 125 grams of protein, 160 grams of protein, whatever number it is, it may look like a lot, but once you figure it out and you realize how to get to that much protein, it's easy, and we just keep mimicking that day in and day out. Where can we find protein? In our meats, stuff like steaks, our beefs, our lamb, any of that stuff. Those meats, preferably lean meats, is where we can find protein. Our poultry, our chickens, our turkeys, anything like that. Seafood, very high in protein. Shrimp, fish, lobster, crab, all of that, very high in protein. Beans, peas, nuts, seeds, all other places where we can get protein, we just got to look for it. Are those the only things we can get protein from? No. We have things such as protein powder. So if you're lacking in, I need 120 grams and I can only get 100, a protein shake is a great substitute. Not for, you might not do it for a full meal, but just drink a shake throughout the day as like a snack. A great way to get in an extra 25 grams of protein. If you start with a water or an almond milk, then you add a frozen fruit, you add a nut butter, preferably, if it's peanut butter, we're looking for PB2 because way less calories, a lot of protein, or like almond butter, healthy nut butters like that, and you just mix it up. There's 25, 30 grams of protein right there that you weren't getting in before. So that's protein, the most, I feel like, underrated, not known about macronutrient that we need to have the most of. And now moving on to fats. They're also known as fatty acids or lipids. And our body actually makes most of the fats that we need. But there's just there's a little bit that we can't make that are essential to the body, so we have to find them from an outside source, which would be our food. Those are our omega-3 fats and our omega-6 fats, which are absolutely essential to the body. There's a couple different kinds of fats. So we have our unsaturated fats that we're going to get mostly from plant food. Super beneficial from the body. They're going to help absorb essential vitamins A, D, E, and K. Very important for our heart health. They're going to help lower those LDL cholesterol levels. So as we talked about earlier about protein, that's the bad cholesterol. So we do want to lower those levels. And then it's going to keep you satisfied longer. It actually helps reduce inflammation in the body as well. So make sure we're getting those unsaturated fats in. We'll follow that up with saturated fats. That's where we're going to get mostly from our animal products, like our meats, our poultry, our seafood, stuff like that. You can get saturated fats from plant products, but mostly animal products is where you're going to get those saturated fats. Then we have trans fats. Those are usually found in processed foods. So if you're ever looking at a nutrition label, where you want to stay away from is those trans fats. Processed foods we try to get rid of as much as possible as well. They're the worst type for the heart, our blood vessels, and the rest of our body. They're actually going to help raise LDL levels. That's the bad cholesterol. We don't want to do that. And lower our HDL, which is our good cholesterol. So looking to keep those on the lower end with those trans fats. It's going to help create inflammation, whereas our essential fats help reduce it. And it does contribute to insulin resistance and just has harmful effects even in small amounts. Where can we find our fats, we're going to find them in our oils like olive oil, canola oil, coconut oil, nuts, seeds, and then fish as well. So keep those in mind next time you're looking at nutrition labels for protein. We're looking for fats. You can have all of them. Let's just make sure we're being smart about our choices. And now, our 2 ways to track foods. The first one we like to call portion controls made easy. And the only thing you really need to have is your hand. We're going to use our hand to kind of figure out portions. So the first one, protein. So if we didn't know, we should have proteins, vegetables, carbs, and fats at each meal. How much protein should we have? 1 palm of protein. So for women, it's going to be 1 palm. For males, 2 palms. That is the baseline here. How many vegetables should we have? Your vegetables on your plate should be the size of your fist. Once again, women, 1 fist. Men, you should have 2. How many carbs should we have? 1 cupped hand. So if you're doing rice, hand cup right there, make it, that's how many carbs you should have. So if rice is your carb, use that cupped hand right there. Women, 1 cup hand. Men, 2 cupped hand. And then our fats, 1 thumb of fats for females, and then 2 for men. Some things to think about, adjust it based on, how frequently you eat, what your goals are, how active you are. So just some baseline information there as to how to use your hand as a way to track your food. The other thing we will be using is Myfitnesspal. So I'll put up a screen recording of how to use it with a voiceover, and you guys can jump right into Myfitness. So quick rundown of Myfitnesspal. You're going to go to your nutrition. From here, you're going to click on calories, and then your total calories you're going to adjust to, if it's 1,800, you type in 1,800, and then whatever your macronutrient goals are set at, you can just adjust right there with those percentages. From there, you can see, your percentages of what you ate for the day. Now, this is just an example. At the time, it was, 50% protein, 33% fat, 17% carbs. Now, you can also click on water, log in, 16.9 ounces. And then you click on food as well. You'll hit breakfast. From there, you type in whatever you ate with the brand. You'll hit the search bar. From there, it'll pop up. You're going to go ahead, click on it. You're going to change your serving size, and then it'll automatically calculate your calories and your macronutrients as well. So you're going to do that with each food item that you ate at the time. We'll follow that up with a barcode to the right of the search for food. Anything that has a barcode, you can just scan and it'll automatically pop up. Once again, from there, all you have to do is change the serving size. And you're going to do that for each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.